And the Torah tells us on the 8th day is the day of circumcision. And we learn out, the Gemara tells us why uvayom hashmini, they say uvashmini, why the extra word uvayom and on the 8th day. So besides the fact we have a halacha, the yom, and to the exclusion of Laila, the halacha is it's a machlokas in the Gemara about a milah shelo bizmana, but we pass can even a milah done not on day 8 must be done during the day.
Oh, if it's done at night, it's no good.
Right. But uvayom is teaching me ayom afilo b'Shabbos. Uvayom, even the 8th day falls on Shabbos, like the etzem hayom hazeh, like the way the Avid Drum would say about Asara B'Teves, that even if it fell out on Shabbos, you'd fast. Again, it never falls out on Shabbos, so we can't disprove it the way our calendar is set up. But uvayom hashmin, uvayom afilo b'Shabbos. That we do bris milah even on Shabbos, and even though normally, or in other mitzvahs like shofar, lulav, kriyas hamegillah, the Gemara tells us gzeira derabba, that if they fall out on Shabbos, we don't do them because we're concerned it might lead to chilul Shabbos. Nevertheless, by milah, we don't apply that principle. Why don't we apply that principle by milah? So the different reasons given. Some is because milah is unique in the sense that it's one of the few, milah and karban pesach is one of the few mitzvahs aseh, usually of non-fulfillment of a positive mitzvah, you have to do tshuva. There's no, during the time of the temple, you brought a sacrifice. But bisman hazeh, all you need, I say in parentheses, tshuva is important also, but all you need is tshuva. There's no there'll be no good old-fashioned whooping by Basin. If you violate a negative commandment, it comes with makis. But merely failure to perform a positive mitzvah does not associate with it a punishment. However, milah and karban pesach are the two exceptions where failure to perform, albeit not necessarily right away, you have a chiyuv kares. Whatever kares means exactly, but it comes with some form of onish, penalty. So since it's not by shofar and lulav, it's just a regular mitzvah aseh. So we're not as concerned if you don't do it. But when it comes to milah, something which involves courage, we don't want to push off, and even on Shabbos we do.
Yes,
Jeff, take over.
Kares now. Also, I think even in Yom Kippur you get kares.
Right, but
that's a negative one, right?
I'm saying a lot of kares are negative.
The other kares, which are negative?
Yeah, I think the Mishnah has a list of 36 things, and
wow.
Not all we can't necessarily do today, but
connected with the Mishnah
and that. But those are only two mitzvahs aseh that come with it, chiyuv kares. Others say v'yom afil b'Shabbos is another reason why we don't say gzeira derabba, and that's because there's limits to the powers of the chachamim. The chachamim only work within the system. So one of the limitations to the chachamim are that something which is mefurish b'kra, something which is explicitly written in the chumash, the Chachamim can't tell you not to. In other words, let me just go back a step. There's a Gemara in Yevamot which tells us in general, Yesh koach yad Chachamim la'akor dvar Torah b'shevi al taseh. It's a general principle that the Chachamim can tell you not to perform a positive mitzvah. In other words, if you're having a mac attack, they can't tell you to go ahead and eat a mac, because that's violating b'kum v'aseh, eating non-kosher with an action. But they can tell you not to do something b'shevi al taseh. So it's a machovos in the Gemara. Some even say b'kum v'aseh. We assume no. We paskin only shevi al taseh. So therefore, merely they could tell you not to perform shofar, not to shake the lulav, because they're telling you not to do something. You're being passive. So comes along the qualification and says not only that, but if something which is mefurish b'kra, then they can't even tell you not to do it. So for instance, if it would say in the Torah, when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, we blow shofar, so even the Chachamim can't even tell you b'shevi al taseh not to do something. But since it doesn't say explicitly, this says on Rosh Hashanah you blow shofar, it doesn't say on Rosh Hashanah, so therefore they have the leeway to tell you not to do it. But by milah, at least the way working with the Yud Gimel Midas, we're assuming it's Mefurish B'Kra, even though it's not. Uviyom afilu b'Shabbos. So since it's explicitly written that you have to do it on Shabbos, so therefore the Chachamim can't tell you not to do it. So the first answer is telling me something more about the strength of the mitzvah Mila. Mila is a mitzvah saseh sheyesh bo kares. The second answer is nothing really to do with Mila per se. It has to do with more what are the limitations of the Chachamim have. So it has to do with what's Mefurish B'Kra, what isn't. Others suggest that before we knew exactly what day it was with the doubts in the calendar, so you didn't know if it was Rosh Hashanah. So it's a Suffolk mitzvah shofar today, or a Suffolk lulav versus a Daraisa of Shabbos. However, Mila has nothing to do. We don't need a calendar. We just count 8 days. So Mila was a Vadai. So when it came to a Vadai, they never instituted Gzeira Darab. So different reasons given why. If Mila falls out on Shabbos, we do it anyway. We don't have Gzeira Darabi because of its strength of an Aseh Sheyesh Bo Kares, either because it's Mefurish B'Kra, or because we know we don't need a calendar. We just can count 8 days, even if we don't know exactly what day, whether it's the third day or fourth day of the month. We know what day it is of the after the birth. So, yeah.
I think you've answered me. Look, those who say that, deal with Mefurish B'Kra, those who interpret Bayom as meaning Lo Balayla, they can use other reasons why you sold it on Shabbos.
Right, that's right. In terms of what they can learn out from other reasons.
You gave 3 reasons altogether, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I gave, why.
Why you don't do it.
Exactly, but everyone agrees that's universal. You have to do Mila B'Yom and not Balayla. The only dispute is a Mila Shalom Bizvada. If you push off a circumcision to day 9, 10, 11, 12, then there's an opinion in the Gemara Yavamas that Tosas and Kedushin seems to go with in one answer, that you can't do a Mila Shalom Bizmana Balayla. We don't paskin that way. We paskin Laila is out.
What's his lamdas? I mean, why does he...
No, because he's saying Uva Yom HaShmini.
Yom is only connected to Shmini. There's no Yom.
Exactly. Once you don't get Shmini, you're finished.
Right. Yom either.
Exactly. So there's a general halacha, you have to do Mila on the 8th day, even on Shabbos. However, we know, of course, if the baby's not healthy, so of course you don't do it on day 8. And the halacha is only day 8 is Docha Shabbos. But if once you're pushing off the bris to after day 8 for good reasons, for jaundice, other reasons, then you do not do the bris on Shabbos. You wait until Sunday. In general, there was an old practice that once you pushed off a Mila Shalom Bizmana, some people waited to Sunday because that was a convenient day, or Erev Pesach in some places. But the poskim do not like it. Really, you're supposed to do a Mila Shalom Bizmana the first available day. It's not once it's pushed off, you push it off to whatever you feel like it. But the poskim feel very strongly about doing a Mila Shalom Bizmana as soon as physically possible. So they point out that's only on Shabbos, that's only on a Mila Bizmana. However, could you give me a scenario where you have a healthy baby and it's day 8 and you don't do a Mila on Shabbos?
You mean a day 8 on Shabbos? Oh, you're not sure when the baby was born, perhaps? The baby was
right. So
born
so a Ben Hashmash's baby, they're born Friday night, or depends whether if it's Friday night or not. But in between Friday afternoon, let's call it, in between sunset and nightfall. So before sunset is considered Vada Yom, definitely day. After nightfall is considered definitely night. The time period in between sunset and the 3 stars, that's a Suffolk Yom, Suffolk Laila. So that would be a Ben Hashmash's baby. So you couldn't do it Friday because maybe it's only day 7. Yeah. You can't do it on Shabbos because maybe it's not the right day. Cause, so maybe it was born on Friday. It's a Mila Shalom Bizmana. So it's a Suffolk Mila Shalom Bizmana, and you wait until Sunday.
As far as him counting towards a minion, Bar Mitzvah, you would say he was born on Shabbos. That wouldn't be. You would say he was born on the date of Shabbos.
For Shabbos, in terms of we could assume he's 13 for Shabbos.
Yes.
However, there's another kind of scenario. What's the case of another Suffolk Mila, healthy baby, but it's a Suffolk Mila Bizmana? Could you give me another scenario? That's the classical case is Ben Hashmash. It happens more than you think. And what's another scenario? Healthy baby.
I think I've heard you say C-section.
That is correct. It's from here. And that's what the Gemara discusses. Then the post of a C-section baby. Why do we discriminate against C-sections? Why a C-section baby, no Mila on Shabbos? Healthy, 100% healthy. So that's a Gemara in Shabbos where the Gemara already connects, or that's the discussion in the Gemara. We know later on in Parashas Tazria, the Torah repeats the mitzvah of Mila. Isha ki Tazria, v'yelda zacha, v'tam Hashem hashamim, etc. So the pasuk itself connects the mitzvah of Mila on the 8th day to Tumas Leda, to a woman. There's a certain today it's much longer, you don't have to worry about it, but strictly speaking, one of the reasons the Gemara gives why a Mila is done on day 8 is because right after you have a boy, the woman becomes tummy for 7 days, so it's not right. Everyone's running around happy at the bris, and the husband and wife can't even hold hands, so therefore you wait till both the husband and wife could be together, and you wait for day 8. So the Gemara itself connects Tumas Leda to the halacha of Yom HaShmini. So since C-section today, you have other issues practically, but in theory, C-section baby, you don't necessarily have the dam, you don't necessarily become Tumas. There's no necessarily a Tumas Leda afterwards. Practically today you do, but in theory you don't. So therefore, it's a question in the Gemara whether a C-section baby is chayiv on day 8, because we're assuming to the Rambam or the Bucham, right, you need day 8 for health reasons, that the baby's not strong enough on day 1. Or some say for spiritual reasons, every baby should go through a Shabbos before the born. But Be'ikar Adin, it seems to be that no, even day 1 a baby is healthy enough to have a bris milah, but day 8 they chose for different reasons. So that's a discussion in the Gemara in Shabbos whether a C-section baby, if the halacha is connected, because the question is by Avraham Avinu there was no Tumas Leda, and he circumcised his son on day 8. There's a discussion in the Gemara whether day 8, whether it's day 8 anyway, or only day 8 because it's connected to Tumas Leda. So
before Matan Torah, they observed the Torah according to this, but they didn't have Tuma.
That's the Gemara's kasha, is that's one of the proofs is we see there was no Tuma V'Taira, and yet they did day 8. So then some say the mitzvah changed at Har Sinai. That's a discussion in the Gemara. But there was no Tuma.
Why not? How do you know? I mean,
I'm not.
But why does anyone? I mean, how do the Meforshim know there was no Tuma?
Because that's later on. Parashas Tazria introduces it. It wasn't the time of Avraham Avinu.
Oh, you
could say no.
He didn't have to wait so many days before.
No, Avram himself might have vowed. If we assume the Avos kept the Torah, so then you could assume they kept Tumas Leda on that. But that's optional. We're talking about an obligation. Oh. The obligation clearly wasn't until Matan Torah. The Bris Milah they had to do day 8 because that's what God told Avram, but none of the dinim of Tuma V'Taira applied. So they point out that so really a C-section, it's a Sveika Dedina in Shulchan Aruch whether we paskin it should be done day 1 or day 8. So normally what do? We wait to day 8. Because why? If it's day 1, so day 8's also good. But if it's day 8 and we do day 1, it's a Mila Kodam Zmana and it's no good, and you'd have to do Hatafis Dam Bris. So therefore we normally wait to day 8 to cover ourselves. However, we have a major issue when day 8 falls on Shabbos, we can't cover ourselves because if we do day 1, then maybe it's day 8. But if we do day 8, maybe it's day 1. It's a Mila Shalom Zmana on Shabbos. So therefore, the halacha is it's a suffix Mila Shalom Bismana, kind of like a Ben Hashmash's baby, and hence we wait to Sunday. So that's the Gemara. So comes along a tremendous chiddush by Rabbeinu Chanano, and what's more surprising to me is the major poskim follow this chumrah. There's a Gemara in Chagiga talks about a miraculous birth. We've passed that time period, but they talk about getting pregnant in a bathhouse. That's the Gemara already discusses that.
You mean accidental? Miraculous.
Accidental on purpose, but you become pregnant in a bathhouse, right? Correct, accidental.
So we're assuming not through the normal means of becoming pregnant.
Toilet
correct.
Or something,
Anyway, any modern day equivalent, but maybe we'll see. But basically, not through the normal means of becoming pregnant.
Okay.
The Gemara over there seems to connect that there's no halacha of tumas leida. Like it's only isha ki tazriya v'yolda zacha. That's not a halachic din of leida, becoming pregnant through a bathhouse, and therefore the Gemara seems to say over there that the dinam of tuma v'taira of a woman after that doesn't apply. That's the Gemara. Comes along Rabbeinu Hanan and says, you know what? So based on this, Rabbeinu Hanan, or I should say, or Rabbi Hanan discusses what's the issue here? It's 2 days in Rabbeinu Hanan. Is it the miraculous conception? Is it because she was conceived? What's the issue of why there's no din of tumas leida here? What is it? Because she was conceived this way, like through a miraculous way, or we say it wasn't the normal way of becoming. It wasn't even though the birth was normal, but since it wasn't the normal means, so comes along Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He quotes the different opinions of Rabbeinu Hananel, and he says based on this Rabbeinu Hananel, we have I don't know if he says it, but I'm saying it. Based on Rabbeinu Hananel, we have a tremendous chiddush and chumrah lahalacha. You know what Rav Shlomo Zalman says? That today, with modern technology, in vitro, artificial insemination, yes. If someone becomes pregnant through non-normative, when normative might be quite normal today, those means, but not normative meaning derech bia. Mm-hmm. So it's like the din of an ambati. And there's a din of a bathhouse, and therefore you cannot do, if they're born on Shabbos through artificial insemination, in vitro, etc., you cannot have the bris on Shabbos. It's a safek mila shelo bizmana. It's a case of because perhaps it's not, they don't have to wait to day 8, perhaps it's a din of day 1 like a C-section, and therefore, according to them, the Mola, one of the questions the Mola should be asking is, how is this baby conceived? Of course, but what about the embarrassment of? So you could say a white lie like it was jaundice, the babies. No one has to know the reason why you're not doing it. Somebody asks you, why aren't you doing the meal on Shabbos? You don't have to tell them because you did artificial insemination or in vitro. But he's saying, so Rav Shlomo Zalman, based on, so I thought it was a tremendous chumrah, which it sounds. But then I heard Rev Herschel Schechter feels the same way, and Rav Mordechai, two of my rebbeim at YU. Felt the same way. Lahalacha, lamaisa, they would not do a mila. They would not do a mila on a baby that was born in vitro or artificial insemination. If day was on Shabbos, they say it's a safek mila shelo bizmana, based on those two opinions in Rabbeinu Hananel, and they'd say to wait until Sunday, or the next possible day, to do the bris milah.
So look. Is it from Tazria we learn that you only get tumah perhaps by a normal birth?
Rabbeinu Hananel is a tremendous chiddush because the Gemara over there is talking about getting pregnant through a bathhouse. The conception is the normal. See, by C-section, it's the normal conception. It's the actual birth. Yeah. So the Gemara just talks about the case of C-section. Rabbi Hananel is making a big chiddush that the conception has some type of, because even though they're conceived through, let's say, artificial insemination, the birth is the same. But the chiddush is by, because the Gemara only talks about when the birth is different, like C-section.
Normal means normal.
What's the difference? How you would conceive? Bottom line, you're having the child, and so that's what the chiddush of Rabbeinu Hananel. Even the conception's not done in a normal derech bia. So therefore, perhaps the halachas of the tumas leida, it's not a halachic din of leida in terms of tuma, and therefore there won't be a din of day 8. This isn't a mila bismana. Day 8, perhaps it's day 1, and therefore if it's Tuesday, of course you do it day 8. But if it's a Shabbos, so it's a safek mila shelo bismana. So we have the clear case in the Shulchan Aruch. We have safek ben hashmasha, so the baby's born Friday twilight. That's in the Shulchan Aruch. In the Shulchan Aruch, you have a C-section baby. It's a sveika dedina. You wouldn't do a mila on Shabbos. And from the later Achronim, Rav Shlomo Zalman, and I heard from Rav Schechter and Rav Willig that they wouldn't even do a bris on Shabbos if the baby's born through artificial insemination or in vitro or any other way which wasn't derech bia, even if the based on Machmer on the opinion of Rabbeinu Hananel.
So would that apply equally for a milah then on a yantif?
Yes, Rabbi?
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
you'd put it off as well.
Yeah, well, in general, the halach is a milah on yantiv rishon. We usually Right, if you wouldn't do it on Shabbos, you certainly wouldn't do it on
Yom Tov.
No, because Yom Tov is less. So Yom Tov Sheni is a discussion we have to get into next time. But Yom Tov, Pashas, we don't do Amila Shelo Bizmana on Yom Tov either. But we'll get into that next time.